Hello everybody, John here, and today on To The Garage we're looking at rigidizing the lining of my Devil's Forge furnace, and we'll be using this stuff. This is refractory coating rigidizer for ceramic fibre blankets. The lining of my furnace is a relatively soft sort of polystyrene feel, but it is a cloth lining, and we're going to turn it into a solid lining. And for that, all I need is a measuring jug to get myself 330 ml of water, paintbrush, old screwdriver for stirring, and the fire brick that's going to go in the bottom of my furnace. So I'm going to get the water and we'll crack on. Okay, so 330 ml of water. Going into my little tin. This is the substance in question, and I'm going to be adding all of that, which is 550 grams, to my water mix. Now, there's no instructions about how to do this, but I'm going to treat this in the same way as you'd treat plaster of Paris, which means you add it to water, not the other way around, and you mix it in stages. So I'm going to do this in 2 or 3 installments. So get some in and see how it starts to react. And react is the word, if I'm honest. There's quite a lot of bubbles coming up from that. More than you'd expect if it was just trapped air. More like it's generating a bit. So he's in. Let's get another couple installments. Ooh, lost a bit. That's, I was going to say all, I've lost quite a bit. Most of it in there now. You can see the consistency at the moment is quite claggy. So I'll get on with mixing this and show you again in a minute. Okay, so been stirring this for 10 minutes. That's the consistency. Ooh, can you see? Yeah. It's gone quite smooth. If it was paint, it'd be very thick paint. Right, let's see how this is going to work out. Well, my plan is to do the bottom first and work up. And you've got to put your fire brick in once you've painted it, because I'm guessing it's going to settle flat, and that way it won't crack the surface. There's a hole here that the burner comes through. I'm going to try and start by getting some paste in there. So I'm going to dunk the brush. No idea how it's going to paint on. Okay. It's going to be tricky to do the up bit. Let's paint around it. Actually, it doesn't look like it's going to be too difficult. No. I mean, it's thick, but of course the wool that's in there is very absorbent. I thought it was going to drag terribly, but it does seem to just be going on the surface, so it is more of a plaster than it is a paint. I think I'll put a thin coat on the bottom quite quickly, because it's hard to judge how much of this I've got compared to the size of the task. It's all supplied in the right quantities by Devil's Forge, so I'm not going to be far off, but initially you think, well, is it going to be the thinnest of thinnest coats, or am I pasting it on 5mm thick? Hard to say. So let's just get a good daubing all over the bottom and assess the situation. Yeah. If you brush the wool too much, it does start to move the nap around. And I guess you could end up with holes and patches in your coating. Well, that's coated it. Just going to put a little bit more where the burner comes through. Because rightly or wrongly, I'm guessing that's going to be a bit of a hot spot. Not so much because that's the burner, but because it's got edges. Okay, base done. Used probably a centimetre's worth of my 8 centimeters of coating. So I'm going to crack on with this now. You don't need to watch me doing all of this, so I'll put you on fast time. Okay, so I've put a basic coating on everywhere inside, except for the lid. I've definitely not got it perfectly covered. You can, the more you stare, the more you can see little tiny bits of white coming through, but I don't think it's the sort of thing that you do in one hit totally successfully. But we've only got one coat's worth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the fire brick in the bottom before the bottom starts to harden, just so that if it's going to settle, it'll settle on soft lining and therefore break up a bit less. A bit less likely to break up, using some sort of English. For no apparent reason, I'm going to put this at 90 degrees to the burner inlet, because that seems like a good idea. Something I might think is a good idea or not later. I'm going to push it down a little bit. And there we are. And now we continue. So I'll go around the top edge and the lid. Right, still got a good 2 to 3 centimeters left in the bottom of my jug. So I'm just going to now do some touching up where it feels and looks a little thinner. Ooh, that was a bit vicious. When I closed the lid, that bit there touched the main body and it's gone tatty. So again, another thing I've learned is leave it open. Beauty of this construction is, although the lining is bound to crack up, it's kind of on a substrate that will hold it together. So it might start to look tatty a long while before its effectiveness is reduced. It's probably been 10 minutes or more since I started painting this, and it's now easier to apply the second coat to these little touch-up areas because it's stiffened a little bit and isn't moving around like cotton wool. So I guess my advice would be get a thin as you can coating that nearly covers everything on as quick as you can, and then use your remainder to tidy it up. But really don't overwork it. All you do is move the wool around. I think I shall call it wool. It's definitely a good idea to wear gloves. Just because you're painting inside a pot, you just can't avoid painting yourself. There's nothing on the bag to indicate this is nasty, but just from a keeping yourself tidy, not covering everything in your garage in ceramic paint. Put some gloves on, and that looks pretty good. I am actually quite pleased with that, considering I didn't really know what to expect. Didn't know I was going to be doing this to this. I've never done anything like that before. My gut feel is I've done it how it's supposed to be done. Yep, there's definitely enough. Although it didn't look like we got a lot of paint, because it's not really taking or absorbing its second touch, there's only so much you can put on anyway. So they've judged it just right. Well, that's that. What I'm going to do now is get a bit of rag and clean the edge of the lid. One thing I'm already aware of is with the lid fully open, it's only just stable. So when I'm actually using it, I'm going to have to make sure that the lid sits on something when it's open, or a whole great hot thing could easily topple when you're using tongs to open it, and maybe a bit clumsy and let it fall back quite sharply. Before you know it, the whole thing's going to be on its side spewing flames everywhere. So maybe a stop would have been good on the lid so it can't go all the way over. This is obviously very, very wet still, but gives you a reasonable impression of how it finished. It's kind of like a slurry, I guess. The paste started to thicken towards the end of me applying it, and as I say, when I went back over areas, rather than soak in, it just went on the surface. It was all great. The fire brick was sat in the bottom was it all damp, so that it levels that off. I doubt I'll be able to easily pull it out without damaging things, and I probably won't anyway. And I took extra care to get round the entrance hole for the burner as much as I could, but it's very difficult. We now leave that to dry.